Is there a way for this to be turned around? Sure. How does that happen? And this is typically what we do is how does that happen? And we talk about it. I really can't give you anything. I really can't give you...
That we haven't said 400 times in the past 2 weeks.
Right. And we haven't seen any of that acted upon or anything really change from this team, from this coaching staff from that point. So I'm extremely concerned because what we're in danger of now and the fact that we're here from the point where we were at a couple weeks ago is insane because we're talking about this team's a top 10 team in the country. They can go beat anybody in a tournament-style neutral site game. And now we're talking about a team that could miss out on the NCAA tournament altogether.
Have you seen their metrics?
Yeah.
All right, let me pull these up because I want to get the exact numbers correct. We have a completely unranked in the AP poll, that goes without saying. Ken Palm 61, Net 66, Bart Torvik 78. And Bart Torvik does a projection of teams that are tournament worthy. Will they make the tournament? Will they not? Their percentage chance to make the tournament, according to Bart Torvik, is 25.2%. They were right around 95 to 100 2 weeks ago.
Right.
They're at 25.2% because he's projecting out in the future like, okay, these problems, how can you solve them?
Yeah.
Like, is there any real
tangible
way to make that happen?
Yeah.
Because if not, I'm just going to have to project them to lose more games along the way if they can't figure this whole thing out. And I think the two things, if the two things I need to fix, like each other. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
They don't really know each other that well.
Right.
For God's sakes, Jordan Brown probably met Naquan Tomlin last week, and they played meaningful minutes in that UAB game on the floor at the same time. And then, two, find a vocal leader in the locker room. Those two things, I think, would solve, I don't know, 90% of the issues that ail this team.
And even that's difficult because you would like to think that if somebody was going to become that vocal and emotional leader, it would have happened at this point. It would have already come to fruition. So we really are watching a team in a full meltdown right now. And there's no we're not doomsday type people anyway. Usually we're pretty positive.
You want to stay positive, but
it's looking really, really bleak right now. I mean, this team has lost 3 games in a row to, on paper, at least inferior opponents, games that they should have won. I mean, this is a team that, okay, now they have 5 losses. We were really saying they're probably only going to have 4 or 5 losses by the end of the season. And here we sit. You still got 2 games against FAU. You still got a matchup against Wichita State. You still got a matchup against Tulane. Like, there's still, with this version of this team, there's still a lot of losable games out there.
Yeah, and you here's the thing. I just look at the fact that they're, 8 or 9 range right now. That's what they are, and you wanted to avoid that.
Right.
You wanted to be a top 7 seed so you can get out of that 8-9 game, not play a 1 seed in the second round. And even those games you mentioned, are those going to, even if you ran the table, which I definitely don't expect with the way this team's playing, if you ran the table, won a couple of those games, you can't really raise your seed line an insane amount at this point.
No.
There's nothing out in front of you that's going to boost you to where you were 2 weeks ago, which was a 4 or 5 seed.
Right.
You cannot. It is going to be literally impossible for them to get there.
It's not going to happen.
And that's where it's like, okay, click the panic button.
Yeah.
All right. Well, just save your season, get to the tournament now.
Yeah.
The real comparison I think to that is last year's FAU team, right? We hate the comparison between
lost
Memphis
3 games.
Lost 3 games the entire season.
31-3.
31-3. The two games that they lost were their 2 the Power 6 teams that they played non-con.
Ole Miss and Florida.
Ole Miss and Florida last year rolled through their conference and still got an 8-9 seed. And this is going to be kind of the same situation, even if they roll through the next 11 games, which, let's be frank,
I don't know how you could project that.
You can't project
you
that
can't.
with this team right now.
You can't. And that FAU team won the conference tournament as well.
Right.
And it's hard to project Memphis going and winning 3 games in 3 days at this point.
I mean, they're even flirting with missing the tournament. Let's be completely honest.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely on the table.
They've lost 2 quad 3 games, so that would lead you to believe that they could lose more quad 3 games on the road.
Right. Yeah, no, they're absolutely capable. At this point, with what we've seen, even before the 3 losses.
Are you going to do the capabilities on both sides, like the polls of what this could be, good and bad? Because that's insane to even think about too.
No, it's very.
I lean bad.
It's very weighted on the bad side. But what I'm saying is, if you take the last 3 games, and even if you peel back the layers before that of things that we weren't concerned of because they were winning those games, Memphis is capable of losing every game on the rest of their schedule. That's true. That sounds crazy, but we're talking about a team.
But I don't want to believe they can lose to Rice at home.
You don't.
Their next game. I don't want to believe that on Wednesday they can lose to Rice at home.
No, you don't want to believe that. But let's go back now because this stuff is starting to make a little bit more sense. UTSA overtime. They allowed 101 points. Like, let's not forget. I know all that stuff was kind of irrelevant at the time
because they won,
because they were winning those games. But you look at it now, and you can't really look out and say, okay, there's not a team that Memphis can't lose. They can lose any game left on the schedule. Do I believe on the flip side they can win every game on the schedule as well? Yeah, I think they can.
You're talking about those wins, like you ever seen Step Brothers when they're in the interview to be a football coach?
Yeah.
And they have the freaking suits on and they fart and he goes, now the suits seem weird now. Now the games they won feel suspect as shit now.
They do.
Because of what we've seen the last 3.
Yeah.
So Penny said something last week in an availability. He said that, and I thought this was a fire quote, in the end, it doesn't really mean much because they had a week off and came out and looked like dog shit against UAB. But he said, I accepted things in winning that I wouldn't accept in losing. What are those things? Like, if you guys could put your fingers on what those things were, what do you think that is?
Sloppy defense would have to be one.
Yeah, sloppy defense mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly. And then a lot of hero ball on offense. Those are the 2 things that I think really jump off that have been just nasty now when you see them lose. You see David Jones and Javon Quinterly, your top 2 guys on this roster in that game against UAB, combined for 13 turnovers and a combined minus 26 when they're on the floor against UAB. Yeah. Alabama, Birmingham. Like, I don't know, man. Like, you just let these things go unchecked for so long. This is the result you get.
Yeah.
And it's kind of frustrating that Penny let it go unchecked, that's the quote he gives at this point, because this is something me and you were talking about in that stretch run. It was like, okay, yeah, they're winning ball games.
But you got to clean that stuff up.
But even when you're winning, you have to clean things up as if you're losing. If you win by 6 in overtime and give up 101 points to UTSA, you should mentally treat that like a loss. We were talking about that, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And clearly that's not what was being done.
No.
Behind closed doors.
No, and even we get the thought shift of the Wichita State game, and now that Wichita State game looks like the outlier of the bunch.
Yeah. Isn't it nasty, though? They play the 3 worst games of the year following their best half of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but I think it shows you how volatile this team is. It shows you how volatile this team is. And that's what I'm saying previous to that. They could go win every game left on the schedule. They could go lose 4 or 5 more games this year. Yeah. Like, there's the range of outcomes.
That's what I was trying to get at a little earlier.
Yeah, the range of outcomes for this team is probably more volatile than any team we've seen under Penny Hardaway, I would say. And what is really scary at this point, if you are a University of Memphis basketball fan, is that a couple weeks ago, this was a team with legit Elite 8 plus.
At least second weekend.
Yeah, this was Elite 8 plus type of team. Now it's a team that can miss out on the tournament. And there's some times where you say, okay, they shouldn't have been in that position anyway. That's not true with this team. They're so talented. They're so experienced. It's like all the stars aligned for this year to be a successful year, and now it's going down the drain.